Hey Sec4s who are taking your O-level Paper 2 exam very soon, here are 7 exam smart hacks that you can use to increase how much you score even though you don't need to study anything extra. So these are exam smart tips that I picked up along the years, and many of them is through learning the hard way. So I naturally started implementing some of them in how I did my exams, and now I'm just trying to articulate it so that you also can copy. Right? I'm making them explicit. So I used this throughout my secondary school years in RI and also when I was in JC in Raffles JC, where I scored all A's in my A levels. And these exam smart tips definitely helped me to secure those good grades. Okay, now I want you to look at the screen and see these two people, right? Bob and Robert. Notice that they both entered the exam with X amount of content knowledge, the same amount. That means they studied the same amount. And it's the same exact exam, just like how all O-level students in Singapore will be taking the same exam as you. So how is it that one can come up with a different grade, like Bob gets B3 and then Robert gets A1? How is this possible? So obviously, it's not content related. It must be because Robert has more skills than Bob. So can you think of what skills those could be? You're probably thinking of things like time management. Maybe Bob had bad time management and then missed out on significant chunks of marks. So a disclaimer to all these tips that I'm going to give you. Look at this graph here. The blue section of the bar graph represents how much you can score from your content knowledge, which I'll just say as X. So if you study more, you are bumping up your base score. Example, X plus 10. You can see the blue bar is bigger. And these exam smart hacks I'm giving you is just like a icing on the cake. Right? It's still significant, as you can see the red bar, but if your base is bigger, then your total potential score will be higher. Okay, so disclaimer, I'm not telling you guys to not study because studying more does increase your base. Okay, exam hack number 1 for paper 2 is being fast. So let me tell you the story of when I got overconfident in a bio exam. So throughout my years in secondary school and JC also, my bio was my strongest subject. And when it was, I think this was JC prelims, I was going through the exam and I was like, wow, all these questions are easy. You know, I've prepared for all of them. I know how to answer. So I was very overconfident and just took my sweet time. Then I looked up at the clock and it's like, wait, half an hour left and I have half the paper not done. So I had to rush like crazy. And I think I also had to leave out at least one question. So that, you see this picture up there, that was me. Okay, when you don't have time to finish a paper and you're still writing slowly, right? That was me because I got complacent. And after that, I learned a lesson that every exam I take, I must have a constant sense of urgency. Even if it feels easy and manageable, I must assume I have no time. I must rush. There is a slight rush for every question I'm doing. Okay, and this is the brutal reality of paper 2 because you have to write a lot of words and there are many questions and we have to all fit that within 1 hour 45 minutes. Okay, so how do we know if we are on track? The measurement I like to use is I'm going to try to be faster than the average time per mark. What does that mean? So we know paper 2 is 80 marks total and they give you 1 hour 45 minutes. So if you divide that, you get 1.3 minutes per mark. So I'm going to aim to be even faster than 1.3 minutes per mark. I'm going to aim for maybe 1 minute per mark. So that means when I'm doing the paper, when I look up at the clock and it's like, oh, okay, 30 minutes have passed, I should have done 30 marks worth of questions already. So that is how I can gauge that, yes, I'm on track, I'm on target. Okay, hack number 2, if you're running out of time, just jump to the high mark allocation questions, which are usually nearer the end of the paper. So if you look up and you're like, okay, there's no way I'm getting all this done, stop doing chronological order because there are some questions that are just not really worth your time. Maybe it's like only 1 mark or maybe it takes too long to do. So just skip to the questions that give you the big chunks of the marks. Okay, this leads me to tip number 3, which is to prioritize the high value questions. Spend more time on them, and if you lack time, skip or deprioritize the low value questions. Okay, look at this picture. It shows my formula of how to know the value of a question. The higher the marks allocated, the higher the value. And the faster it can be done, the higher the value. Why? Because this allows you to grab as much marks as possible in as short time as possible. So look at this question, human female reproductive system. Do you think this is high or low value? I'll give you a few seconds to think. Okay, if you say high value, correct, because you can get 3 marks and it's just a pure content recall question. So what is A? Okay, there I write ovary. What is B? Oviduct. I mean, it's such short words, right? And then what is C? Okay, that looks like it's pointing to the opening, so that is cervix. So 3 marks, and that took like I could write it in 20 seconds, right? Or less. So it's super high marks gain in super short time. These questions you must do. Okay, let's look at this next one. Human body prevents blood loss from injury by producing blood clot. Describe how blood clot is formed. 2 marks. Okay, what do you think? Is this a high or low value question? Okay, so if you said medium, I'd say you're right, because the amount of things to write for this is about 2 marks, right? It's like 2 main sentences and you get 2 marks. So it's kind of fair. If let's say they change this to 1 mark only, then this would be considered low value because it's just not worth. Like you only get 1 mark, but you have to write so much. Okay, let's look at this next one where you have to plot the data on the grid, draw the graph. What do you think? High or low value? Oh, and by the way, graph questions are usually 4 marks. So you get 4 marks if you do this question. If you said low value, correct. Because this takes students so much time, right? And drawing the best fit line, especially if it's a curve, that takes even more time than erase. So you only get 4 marks after doing all that. Like it can take students 15, 20 minutes even to do this. So if I'm running out of time, I will just skip the graph question. I won't draw the graph. Unless, of course, the later parts heavily rely on the graph that I've drawn. But if it doesn't, for example, if part A, draw the graph, part B, describe the data. Well, when I describe the data, I can just look at the table of data that's already in the question when I describe. I don't actually need to draw the graph to describe the data. So in these cases, I would just skip the entire graph. Is it possible that you skip drawing the graph and score A1? Yeah, it's possible because it's only 4 marks, right? And if I manage to use that time to properly do all the other questions with high quality, spamming keywords, I can easily score A1. So if you're the kind of student who repeatedly has issues with time management and not finishing the paper, then I want you to skip. Just automatically when you meet a low value question, skip. Don't even try to do it yet. Skip, and only at the end of the paper when everything's done and you're like, okay, I do have time, then you go and do the low value questions. Exam hack number 4. This is optional, by the way. Some of you might like it. Start with the essay questions at the back of the paper first. Most people, they just do it in chronological order, right? They open from the start. But there can be benefit to doing the content-heavy essay questions at back first. Okay, why? Before the exam, I know what all of you are doing. You're furiously studying your notes, right? You're furiously going through and like trying to fill up as much in your short-term memory as possible. And this is a smart strategy, right? Our short-term memory, why not take advantage of it right before the exam? However, it's like a leaking bucket. So when you fill it up before the exam, as time passes, it starts dripping out and you forget more and more things. So when would be the best time to use the short-term memory? Would be at the start of the exam. So if you have just like piled in lots of content in your short-term memory and it's like slowly depleting over the minutes that go on, why not start the exam straight away with those content-heavy questions so you can make use of the short-term memory before it goes away. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys a very sneaky tip, and I really hope I don't get into trouble by telling you guys this, okay? When they ask you to check the paper, like, you know, to see if everything is printed correctly, right? Then, if I'm not wrong, they will tell you, okay, flip page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, then they ask you to flip. So, if they are doing that, and yes, please don't like purposely linger on a page longer and like, this interesting question. No, you have to flip along with them at their pace, right? At the invigilator's pace. But, if possible, near the end, when it's the big essay content questions, especially the rehearsable type. You know, it's the same kind of question. There's always a template. For example, describe transpiration, 4 marks, 5 marks, right? There's always a template, and actually it's in our notes. We have a memory shortcut for that. Fake vampire drinks red water. So these kind of rehearsable questions that is just pure content, try to spot one as, you know, you're checking the pages. And if you see one like the one I just mentioned, oh, describe transpiration, then you know you close, right? And then now there's going to be a few minutes before you guys actually start the paper. So in that few minutes, you can already start planning. Okay, what am I going to write? Okay, fake vampire drinks red water. You can start planning, right? So that gives you a tiny head start before the time starts. Okay, so I hope, yeah, don't say I say one, okay? Right, now, if you're going to use this tip where you do the essay questions at the back first, the rehearsable ones, which have a lot of high mark allocation, like some are 5 marks, 6 marks, 7 marks. After you've done that, then flip backwards in the backwards order and find any other questions that are like that. There are super easy and rehearsable questions with the same template answer that's like, oh, if it's that question, it's always this answer. Find those questions, which are like the no-brainer ones, and they're just content heavy. Find those as you are flipping backwards. If you find one, do it. Then continue flip backwards until you reach the start of the paper. Now that you're at the start, the first page, you do the paper chronologically. So what this method does is, number one, you took advantage of the short-term memory in the leaky bucket while it lasted. If you only reach those questions at the end of the paper, oh man, that was like almost 2 hours ago, I forgot what I read in the note. Second is that you are securing yourself all the easy questions. All these are rehearsable content questions. You might as well score as close to full marks for them as possible. It would be such a shame if later, because you run out of time, you don't do these easy questions. Then you will really hate yourself. Why did I lose out on that? Like, I should have just skipped the weird question and gone to those easy questions, which I can confirm get the marks. So this is an optional strategy, which I just laid out. But for those of you with serious time management problems, then I would use this strategy, because I'd rather get these marks, which are very low-hanging fruit, and I would just, if I can't finish paper, it's okay, because all those lower value questions are the ones I left out, which is strategic. Hack number 5 is reducing your word count. So what's the fastest way to increase your writing speed? Is it to get a special pen? Is it to, like, I heard this before of people would tape batteries on the pen so that the pen is heavy. Then when it's during the exam, they'll take off the battery so that they can write very fast because their muscles have been strengthened. So is that the way? Is that what we're supposed to do to write faster? Actually, the easiest way to write faster is reduce how many words you are writing. And you don't even have to increase your skill or your hand strength. You will be able to finish the questions faster. So here are some tips to reduce the word count. Firstly, remove all your irrelevant parts. So if the question asks you, describe the pathway of urea out of the body. So you would start at the liver, right? Because that's where urea is produced, at the liver after deamination. Now, some students will be tempted to describe deamination. They'll say, at the liver, excess amino acids undergo deamination. Amino groups are removed and converted into urea. And then they start saying, okay, urea from the liver moves out, blah, blah. But you see, the first sentence wasn't asked by the question. It is irrelevant. So these are what I mean by irrelevant parts. They are not answering the question, not required. Delete them. They are just wasting your time. Okay, also don't give background info that is not needed, such as repeating the question. So a lot of times the question will ask you, then they'll give you a statement, right? And then people will just put that statement down. Oh, the reason that this occurs is because, like, just go straight to answering the question, Stop wasting your precious time copying out the question in your own answer. Next, don't repeat things that you've already explained in an earlier part of the answer. If you're repeating the same explanation for a concept, you don't get extra marks. So just say it one time, explain once, and then later you don't need to rewrite the whole thing again. Just assume the marker will know, because they see that, okay, you actually have explained it before, you know the concept. So they won't expect you to repeat those words again and re-explain the same concept. Next is putting the result at the end of your answer. So example, the question asks, explain what will happen to transpiration rate if we increase the fan speed. Then students will write, the transpiration rate will increase, because then they put their answer. Then at the very end, they say, therefore the transpiration rate will increase. So again, they are repeating the result, the outcome. So why not you just put the outcome at the very end of your answer? You just go straight to how the increase in wind speed will affect transpiration, explain all that, then at the very end you put therefore transpiration rate increases. That way you don't repeat. Another way to reduce word count is to paraphrase using shorter phrases and shorter words, like you can see on the screen. So rate of photosynthesis, you can actually just write photosynthesis rate and you drop one word. Water potential of mesophile cells is lower than water potential of xylem. See, when we're talking about the same aspect of another thing, such as water potential here, of mesophile cells versus xylem, right? We can change it to than that of the xylem. And this saves you some words. Therefore can be changed to thus or so, which is easier to write. Decreases, you can write falls. Okay, and the last way to reduce word count, it can be seen as quite unethical, but no worries, you will still score full marks because this is a bio exam, not an English exam. So you can drop the connecting words. So look at this picture on screen as an example. I'm just going to read the first line of the answer. After fertilization, the zygote is moved from the oviduct towards the uterus by peristaltic action of the oviduct walls and the sweeping action of cilia. Okay, now what if we have no time? What do? We drop all the in-between words. Just retain the keywords as long as the main idea is still there and it's understandable. So you can look at the red words now for the first sentence. After fertilization, zygote moved from oviduct to uterus by peristaltic action of oviduct walls and sweeping action of cilia. So this is shorter and we have dropped some connecting words such as the word the. Okay, hack number 6 is to ensure all your OEQ answers include all the elements that successful answers have. And what are the patterns of successful answers? I've boiled it down into this checklist called FIRED. FIRED. So if you can follow these elements in your OEQ answer, that increases the chance of full marks. F is for focus of the question. So ask yourself, what topic and concept is this? Put yourself in the setter's shoes. Once you can put yourself in their shoes, then you know what will be the right answer to give. I will be irreplaceable words. In other words, the keywords. What are keywords? Just ask yourself, if I'm a physics student and don't study bio, would I know this word? Would I understand what it means? If the answer is no, that means good, that's a keyword. And keywords prove to the examiner that you have actually studied the content, because someone who doesn't study will not know these words. So keywords are usually parts of organisms, parts of diagrams, parts of organs, and processes. So transpiration, translocation, transcription, translation. Okay, there's a lot of trans that I'm using now, but all these are process names, right? Deamination, detoxification. So use all these specific names in the syllabus that have been taught to you to prove to the marker, yeah, I've studied the content. That's why I know these words. R is for relevance. In other words, please just answer the question, and anything that's not answering the question, just delete it. It won't give you marks. Relevance also means answering according to the command word. And I'm going to link up in this video right now about how to deal with different command words, because I've made a 7-part OEQ masterclass, all kinds of OEQ tips, including command words. E is for elaboration. So you want to guide the marker step by step through your thought process as if they are a little child, as if they're really dumb, and you need to spell it out for them. So the more you can elaborate, the higher chance that you're going to score full marks. And lastly, D stands for depth. How deep do you need to write in this answer? How deep do you need to explain? And it all comes down to the mark allocation. So use some common sense. If it's like a 4-mark question but you're only writing 2 marks worth of lines of words, probably you're not elaborating deep enough. So write more. And what more to put in would be more keywords, more detail in how you explain the answer. So ask yourself, why does that happen? And then you just give more detail. Okay, why does that happen? Give more detail. So that's how to elaborate deeper. Okay, in summary, the FIRED checklist can be summarized into spamming relevant keywords. So look at these 2 plates of chicken rice. Now, imagine you bought both of them. The first one costs maybe $5. It has 3 pathetic pieces of meat only. Now the second one, same price, but look at how much meat you get for it. So how would you feel about these 2 plates of chicken rice? The first one, you probably feel it's a scam. It's not worth it, and I don't want to spend my money here ever again. The second one, you're going to be like, this is so worth it. I absolutely love buying this, and I want to buy again in future. So that is how the markers feel about your answer. If you give a lot of keywords versus very few keywords. Few keywords, they will feel like it's not worth to give you the marks. A lot of keywords, they'll feel like, wow, this student has like blown me away. It is so worth giving that student the mark. And now hack number 7, if you don't know how to do a question, or the question is very weird, how do we start? How do we answer it? So firstly, if you are stuck on any question, go finish all the easy one first. All the low-hanging fruit, the template answers that are rehearsable questions, go finish those. Okay, but now that you've done all those, what do you do? How do we attempt these questions? So the goal is not necessarily to score full marks for these questions, but to just put some working so you can get some marks. Consider this example question. Explain why humans need lungs. So this came out in the prelims of one of my students a few years ago, and they were really stumped. They're like, what a weird question. Like, how do we start? How do we answer this? Okay, so here is the trick to generating a point is you just imagine that a primary 1 kid is asking you this question. And what is the simplest answer that you would give if a kid asks you, why do we have lungs inside us? What is the point of it? And what is the simplest answer you would give? And you would probably say, because we need to breathe. Okay, but then this P1 kid, right, is very curious and keeps on asking you why, because they just want to understand. And so they say, why do we need to breathe? And you're like, oh, that's such a dumb question. But hey, it's okay. Let's try to explain to the kid. So they say, well, we need to breathe, right? Because we need to take in air, right? Then you ask yourself, why do we need to take in air? Or rather, the kid asks you, why do we need air? And they're like, well, air has oxygen in it, right? And that's the specific gas we're trying to take in. And then the kid asks, what's oxygen for? Then you say, well, it's for aerobic respiration. Our mitochondria undergo aerobic respiration. Then what's so cool about aerobic respiration? The kid asks. They say, oh, to release energy. Then the kid asks, why do we need energy? Then you say, well, it's for our cells to do their metabolic activities, their cellular activities, just to stay alive. So by this process, we have generated ourselves 1 to 2 marks worth of a point already. However, it is lacking in elaboration because this is a 3-mark question. Right now, this is at most 2 marks, depending on the marking scheme. So I need to go deeper, right? This is called depth, explaining deeper, elaborate more. So imagine now the kid asks you, well, what's so special about lungs, right? You see, the question was, why do humans need lungs? Why do we need this special thing called lungs? Why can't we just have a big balloon inside our chest that just takes in the oxygen? Like, doesn't that also fulfill the requirements that we talked about above? So then you explain to the P1 kid, well, you see, lungs are different from just a balloon. They're special. Then the kid asks, what's so special? Then you say, because we have tiny air sacs called alveoli, and a lot of them, we have numerous of them compared to a balloon. It has none of that. Then the kid asks, so what's the difference? Why do we need the tiny alveoli? Then you say increase surface area to volume ratio. Okay, why? That increases the diffusion rate of gases. Oxygen diffuses in faster from alveolar airspace into the bloodstream, and CO2 diffuses out the other way faster as well. And then the kid asks, why do we need to get the oxygen in faster? Why is it better? Then you cannot just say, because it's better, you have to give a bio answer. So, well, we ask ourselves, why is it the human body needs a fast rate of oxygen coming in? Well, from the above, we've already deciphered that the reason why we need oxygen is for energy. So somehow humans must need a lot of energy. That's why we need a lot of oxygen entering us. So you can say to keep up with our high energy demands or our high metabolic rate. Okay, so use this method when you meet weird questions that you don't know how to start. Imagine a P1 kid is asking you and you give the simplest answer you can, and then you just elaborate from there. And don't worry if you can't create the whole answer like we went through just now, because if you can just do half of it, you're already scoring some marks, and that's better than nothing. So those were 7 exam hacks to help you increase your paper 2 score, even though you don't need to study anything extra. And if you like this, you probably want to watch the how to sleep well before each paper video for your maximum performance. Subscribe to the channel because we will be posting another video like this about exam hacks for the MCQ paper 1.